profiting from charities, profiting from government services, profiting from the military. This week, the Sunday Times unveiled a bombshell report known as the Duchy Files, revealing the extensive property holdings of the duchies of Lancaster and Cornwall. This was followed by Dispatches, a documentary mirroring the report of the Times. Now, these duchies are sprawling estates of over 180,000 acres, which include land seized by medieval monarchs, now generating millions annually. These duchies are not just quaint relics of history, they are modern-day business empires worth an estimated £1.8 billion and operate in a complex web of commercial activities that raise serious questions about transparency and accountability. For centuries, the financial operations of these duchies have remained a closely guarded secret, even from the Parliament. In fact, members of Parliament have been denied access to lists detailing royal landholdings for decades. And folks, what makes this so unconscionable is that William and Charles are profiting off of charities of which they are patrons. That's right. So when you think your charitable donation is going to a worthy cause, that worthy cause is funding the royals' ostentatious lifestyles. What's more is they get to claim tax exemptions due to special arrangements made with the Treasury, meaning the royals are essentially operating as commercial landlords without the same tax obligations as ordinary citizens. Theoretically, the King and Prince William both pay income tax voluntarily at the highest rate of 45%. However, Charles reported paying £5.9 million in taxes, which accounted for only 25% of the profit he makes from the duchy. Now, he claims that these are deductions related to his official duties. William, on the other hand, if you'll recall a couple of months ago, has chosen not to disclose how much he has paid in taxes. In fact, we don't even know if he paid any taxes at all. Disclosure is entirely at their discretion, but they want to convince you in every which way that they are so relatable and environmentally responsible. And as for William, his much heralded documentary on homelessness was released with an audible thud. As soon as it was aired, it was widely panned as disingenuous and performative. Here's a man who's never had to labor for anything, who's had all the conveniences of life catered to him from birth, whose Duchy of Cornwall comprises thousands of acres of land, not to mention the numerous empty castles, preaching to the public about homelessness. Now, William is also landlord to some 600 properties where his tenants have alleged for some time now that their apartments are riddled with mold and mildew, and that they are not provided with sufficient heat. This is all while the taxpayers are footing the £369 million bill to renovate Buckingham Palace. Now, the Parliament has long sought to scrutinize the duchies. In 2005, a Public Accounts Committee recommended that the Prince of Wales be stripped of control over the duchy due to that royal obsession for secrecy. The report concluded that the financial arrangements of the duchies date all the way back to the 14th century. I mean, folks, we're talking about the 14th century here. Do you know what life was like in Britain in the 14th century? We're talking the Canterbury Tales territory here. I would think it's about time for an audit, wouldn't you say? Folks, now you see why their claims about modernizing the monarchy is so laughable. Their singular goal in life is to maintain power. They must continue to put on a show, somehow convincing the public that they are needed. Now, many monarchists love to claim in their defense that their lifestyles are entirely self-sufficient and that they are basically paying for themselves. However, the evidence tells a different story. Leases uncovered during the investigation reveal that Charles and William's duchies charged the military for access to land used for training, mooring rights for ships used by the Navy, and even the NHS has to pay the duchies £11 million over 15 years simply to rent a warehouse for ambulances. Folks, every sector of the nation is affected. Even the prisons have to pay them, all of which are funded by the taxpayer. Folks, I don't know how much longer this can go on. I guess as long as people tolerate it. The income gap between the wealthy and the working poor continues to widen, with many Britons struggling to keep up with the soaring cost of living. Many even facing evictions from William's duchy properties due to being in arrears, but something about homelessness. And speaking of evictions, Charles, in his latest attempt to evict Andrew from Royal Lodge, has apparently directed the privy purse to cut off his little brother from an allowance of £1.2 million. Excuse me? So I was under the impression that he was no longer a working royal and therefore no longer receiving a salary. Do you mean to tell me that all this time he was also getting an allowance? Now, Charles claims that cutting him off is just a cost-cutting measure to save the taxpayers' money, all while ripping off charities, hospitals, and schools. And we already know how much they just love to use the press to deflect attention away from them or to garner sympathy. Just today, it was reported that Camilla won't be appearing at the Remembrance Day ceremony later this month for health reasons. And as for Kate, we never seem to know which is going to be one of her good days. Her never-ending recovery is always brought up whenever people start noticing her absence. William appeared in South Africa for his Earthshot Awards, again without Kate. And it was rather comical to read some of the explanations for this, but of course, it's the Sussexes whose marriage is in trouble. And folks, make no mistake about this, in light of these revelations, they are quaking. They know the public's patience is wearing thin.
Secret millions.
Thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for paying your rent every now and then.
Their private estate.
And their continued misuse of the press to deflect attention away from their avarice won't work forever. So folks, I'm eager to know what you think about all this. Be sure to leave your comments below, like and subscribe, and I'll catch you in the next video.